Hello, everyone. I'm Joseph Brown, and this is Think and Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about COVID-19, the vaccines, and the loss of America's freedom. I'm going to be reading from a script because there's entirely too many facts for me to try to memorize. So bear with me. Stick through the entire video so that you don't miss anything. Not everything that the government and its spokespersons have told you about COVID and the vaccines is true. These are fact-based findings and not a conspiracy theory. The supporting scientific evidence and statements come directly from President Joe Biden, the Centers for Disease Control, World Health Organization, Food and Drug Administration, highly respected scientific publications, credible research groups, and a credible news media report. You must watch this entire video to see the whole truth. Don't skip anything. I need to make you aware that I have already seen during my research that some minor information in some of the links has changed. Be aware that at some point after this video surfaces, some of the information may be completely changed or made unavailable. It is extremely important that you check the links for yourselves immediately after watching this video if you have any doubt of the authenticity of the content. I have already run into web page redirects and pages made unavailable with some information I was trying to acquire. Let's start with a little history so that you can better understand the importance of this report with respect to the depth of the deception and the loss of your freedom. In January 2020, the World Health Organization, researchers, national leaders, and others began monitoring SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2 is the virus that causes COVID-19. See the link below. On December 11, 2020, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, known as the FDA, issued the first Emergency Use Authorization, or EUA, for a vaccine to prevent COVID-19 for people 16 years of age and older. That emergency use authorization allowed distribution of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine in the U.S. Remember, this was only emergency use authorization. Here's what the director of the FDA's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research said to clarify that it was not FDA approval at that time. Quote, "While not an FDA approval, today's emergency use authorization of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine holds the promise to alter the course of this pandemic in the United States." End quote. That is a quote of Peter Marks, MD, PhD, according to the link from the FDA's website below. This is important, so remember this point. Safety monitoring continues through the process of attempting to acquire full authorization from the FDA. This applies to all vaccines that had or have only received emergency use authorization, not just Pfizer. The Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine did not receive full approval from the FDA until August 23, 2021. The president wants to force all of us to be vaccinated with these drugs that have not been put through all of the normal clinical trials. There is no long-term data to show the long-term effects on humans. Who do you think is being monitored? Everyone who had the vaccines from any company should think about what that really means. Examine the evidence and decide for yourself. See the link below. A Rockefeller University Research group published an article on October 28, 2020 on the scientific journal website elifesciences.org that said, quote, "These results show that SARS-CoV-2 can mutate its spike proteins to evade antibodies, and that these mutations are already present in some virus mutants circulating in human population," end quote. That simply means that COVID-19 was already mutating and had already developed the ability to evade your immunity by October 28, 2020. Researchers at that time recommended that only vaccines that could activate the strongest possible immune response should be used if large-scale deployment was done. This is an important point. In addition to that, the vaccines would need to be able to maintain their long-term effectiveness and be able to prevent the rise of virus variants that could resist immunity. Clearly, developers of vaccines and our government did not listen to scientific advice of the researchers. The vaccines that are currently in use are failing to do these things, yet they are being forced upon us. See the links below. Mutations in COVID-19 that give it the ability to evade immunity were discovered as early as the Beta variant. The Beta variant was declared a variant of concern on December 18, 2020 by the World Health Organization. Ironically, the first COVID vaccine was given on December 14, 2020. See the links below. According to the highly respected scientific publication website, nature.com, in an article received on January 15, 2021, scientists advised that, quote, mRNA vaccines may need to be updated periodically to avoid potential loss of clinical efficacy, end quote. This means that it was known as early as January 2021 that the vaccines for COVID-19 would need to be periodically updated due to a loss of effectiveness against COVID-19. See the references for proof of this below. This is extremely important, so please pay attention. The CDC expressed concern on January 28, 2021, that potential consequences of emerging variants may include acceleration of mutations that could evade natural or vaccine-induced immunity due to immune pressure caused by large-scale population vaccination. In other words, large-scale vaccination may cause acceleration of COVID mutations that evade natural and vaccine-induced immunity. This is exactly what the researchers of the Rockefeller University Research Group were trying to warn against. If a vaccine was going to be deployed on a large scale, it would have to be powerful enough to completely stop COVID-19 mutations that evade immunity. Failure to do that in a large-scale vaccination effort is dangerous because it forces even more immune-evasive mutations. See the link below. In a report published by the CDC on May 1, 2021, it was reported that the CDC is no longer reporting passive surveillance of all vaccine breakthrough cases on their website. They are now focused on hospitalized or fatal vaccine breakthrough cases. Remember this as I show you some other things. Keep the dates in mind and keep the shift to reporting smaller numbers in mind. See the link below. As evidenced in a scientific study published on the highly respected scientific publication website, nature.com, on June 14, 2021, there was an increased proportion of variants of concern, or VOCs, in vaccine breakthrough infections as compared to the matched unvaccinated. Why are we being led to believe that COVID-19 resistance to vaccine immunity is just a part of the virus mutating, and that being vaccinated with the current vaccines is the only way to stop it? See the links below. In a report published by the CDC on July 29, 2021, the CDC acknowledged that vaccine breakthrough cases would increase as more people became vaccinated. In that same report, the CDC acknowledged that vaccine breakthrough cases would occur more frequently in congregate settings. That means college dorms, crowded apartments, multifamily or large family living arrangements, senior care facilities, etc. I would ask the question, What about concerts, sporting events, bars, restaurants, and other large gatherings? Wouldn't the same thing apply to those settings? Yet we have opened all these things back up and loosened the restrictions. Why? An even better question would be, why are we so determined to blame the unvaccinated, given all the scientific evidence? According to the World Health Organization, the Delta variant was declared a variant of interest on April 4th, 2021, and a variant of concern on May 11th, 2021. According to the CDC, quote, fully vaccinated people with Delta variant breakthrough infections can spread the virus to others, end quote. According to the CDC, the Delta variant has been one of the most contagious variants that is capable of evading natural or vaccine immunity so far. Why is that? Could it be that the earliest scientific research was correct in saying that this would happen as a result of large-scale vaccinations? Please remember that I showed you earlier in this video that scientific researchers and the CDC expressed concern that large-scale vaccinations would cause immune pressure that would accelerate vaccine immune mutations. See the links below. In the COVID-19 Weekly Epidemiology Update number 55, published on August 31st, 2021 by the World Health Organization, the MU variant was named and declared a variant of interest. Quote, the MU variant has a constellation of mutations that indicate potential properties of immune escape. End quote. Remember, these properties were seen as early as the beta variant, so the ability of COVID-19 to escape immunity in vaccinated and unvaccinated people is nothing new. See the links below. Another issue is that the president and other politicians, so-called scientific experts, and even some news outlets keep quoting percentages instead of actual numbers. You should ask yourself why. The answer is simple. The truth about vaccine failures must be made to appear insignificant so that you don't think about the whole truth. The whole truth would raise too many questions and cause outrage over vaccine failures and over government failures to follow the advice of scientific research. Percentages give the false perception of smaller numbers. According to a report published on July 30th, 2021, NBC News acquired breakthrough case data from 38 states. 9 states did not report their numbers at all, so the actual numbers are even higher. NBC's report shows that at least 125,682 fully vaccinated Americans had tested positive for COVID-19 by July 30th, 2021. Those are known as breakthrough cases. In a report published on September 7th, 2021, the CDC says that it, quote, received reports from 49 U.S. states and territories of 14,115 patients with COVID-19 vaccine breakthrough infections who were hospitalized or died, end quote. As of September 20th, 2021, that number grew to 19,136. This is a good example of the deception being used. Remember that the CDC is now only reporting the number of people with breakthrough infections who were hospitalized or died. They are no longer reporting the true number of total breakthrough cases. It is vital that you look through the deception and see the truth. See the link below. Here's an example of how easily the use of percentages makes the actual numbers appear minimal. Let's use 164,200,000 or 164.2 million people who had been vaccinated in our example. Let's take a little more than 0.076% of that to represent the breakthrough cases, while 0.076% or 0.00076 of 164.2 million sounds very low. It is actually approximately 125,682 people. 125,000 sick people who have been fully vaccinated is a lot. But if you use the deception of percentages, it sounds like almost nothing. Consider this: the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 as a pandemic when there were just 118,000 COVID infection cases in 114 countries around the world, and only 1,281 of those COVID infection cases were in the US. The 125,682 total reported cases were from fully vaccinated people, or breakthrough cases, as of July of 2021 in only the United States, not all over the world. This number of breakthrough infection cases as of July of 2021 far exceeds the total number of infection cases in the US and even the total number of infections in 114 countries at the start of the first pandemic. Simply stated, the number of breakthrough infection cases in July of 2021 were far more than enough to declare a pandemic. So you see, this is not a pandemic of the unvaccinated. It is disgraceful that President Biden keeps falsely claiming that this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. If you repeat a lie enough, people will begin to believe it. See the links below. Here's another problem with the reporting done by the CDC. They are waiting for voluntary reporting instead of actively and diligently going after the data. If you don't believe that, look at the CDC website reference below. Look down near the bottom of their webpage for a link to their voluntary reporting form. Also, this weakness in the accuracy of their data was previously challenged by reporters, and it was again explained away using percentages. See the link below. Joe Biden admitted that there will be more pandemics in the same speech after he issued a mandate that all employees of companies that have more than 100 employees get vaccinated. In that same speech, he again blamed the unvaccinated for the pandemic by saying that, quote, "This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated," end quote. See the ABC News link in the description below around the 4-minute and 17-second time position. This propaganda is turning Americans against Americans. It is also forcing Americans to choose between their freedom of choice and their jobs, which are their financial means of survival for their families. Before this mandate, people who exercised their right to choose in medical fields had already begun to lose their jobs. Now, everyone in this country will be affected by the loss of their freedom to choose and the risk of losing their jobs. This is not a me thing. This is about us as Americans and the defense of our rights. See the link below. The pandemic exists because COVID-19 is a highly contagious disease that constantly mutates. You don't spread COVID just because you are not vaccinated. You have to be infected with COVID and come in contact with someone in some way in order to spread the virus. Remember, vaccinated people are catching COVID too. In addition to that, we have all relaxed and stopped social distancing and wearing masks. The false statements have caused you to be at odds among yourselves. In other words, divided, become weak, confused, and afraid, and ultimately easy to manipulate or convince. This way, it is easy to convince you that the shot is the answer and you must take it. It is truly a disgusting thing for a leader of a nation to do that to its citizens. Using propaganda against American citizens as a means to take away their freedom is just unbelievable. Yet that is exactly what has been happening. What next? Your freedom to choose is extremely important. It is the main fabric of the establishment of this nation. There is a tried and proven defense against this type of propaganda and division. that is to unite and resist. Stop listening to the propaganda and exercise your right to choose no matter what someone says. All of us need to respect the rights of others to choose. Do your own research and find evidence like I did. Arm yourselves with truth. In summary, division through the use of propaganda is an old, tried, and true tactic. It simply works. You are being convinced, divided, and manipulated with false claims. Harsh words, omission of truth, and twisted lies have been used against you to cause people to change their minds and want to be vaccinated, and then blame the unvaccinated for the continued spread of COVID. This was originally meant as peer pressure that would eventually cause the unvaccinated to give in. When they didn't completely comply, presidential mandate was the next tool to acquire total submission. Why is the government so determined to get everyone vaccinated with their drugs by removing our freedom to choose? One sure reason is to declare false victory over COVID and look good in your eyes. Of course, there is the other reason: money. The COVID vaccines are not free. Our government is paying for them. Where do you think the billions of dollars are coming from to fund the vaccines? Your tax dollars is the answer. In the future, they will declare that you need more vaccines that you will also pay for. This has already begun with the introduction of a booster shot. What a perfect money-making machine for the big pharmaceutical companies and their investors. Now I ask you, after all this evidence and knowledge I have given you, who do you trust? My fellow Americans, this is just the beginning. This is not about political parties or personal feelings sparked by lies. It is about the loss of America's freedom. If you sit there and allow your freedom to be taken away, much more will be lost in the future. This is an attack on our democracy. I'm not a supporter of violent protesting, so let's remain peaceful. Exercising your rights works. Just say no if you want to. Let's all protect our rights to choose. This is not over.